Ever wondered what fuels a revolution? You might think of big ideas, passionate leaders, or a burning desire for change. But what if I told you that one of the key ingredients behind some of history's biggest moments was coffee? That's right. That humble cup of joe you're sipping right now has a secret, radical history. It's not just a morning pick-me-up. It's a world changer. So grab your favorite mug, get comfortable, and let's spill the beans on how coffee literally woke up the world and helped spark revolutions. Our story begins not in a modern cafe, but in the mystical highlands of Ethiopia, where, according to legend, a goat herder named Kaldi discovered the magical properties of coffee beans. He noticed his goats became incredibly energetic after munching on the berries from a particular tree. Curious, Kaldi tried the berries himself and felt a similar jolt of energy. The news spread to a local monastery, where monks used the beans to stay awake during long hours of prayer. From these humble, legendary beginnings, coffee began its journey, traveling across the Red Sea to the Arabian Peninsula, particularly Yemen, in the 15th century. It was in the bustling cities of the Middle East, in places like Mecca and Cairo, that the world's first coffeehouses, or kava-khane, were born. These weren't just places to drink coffee. They were vibrant social hubs. They became known as schools of the wise because people from all walks of life gathered there to talk politics, share news, play chess, and listen to music. For the first time, you had a public space where intellectual and political discussion could flourish outside the control of the state or religious institutions. Authorities quickly grew nervous. They saw these gatherings as potential breeding grounds for dissent and repeatedly tried to ban coffee and shut down the coffeehouses. But the public's love for the drink was too strong. The bans never lasted, and the coffeehouse culture continued to thrive, setting the stage for what was to come. By the 17th century, coffee had arrived in Europe, and it was a sensation. London, in particular, went mad for it. The first coffeehouse opened there in 1652, and within a few decades, there were hundreds. Just like in the Middle East, these weren't just drink stands. They were penny universities, where for the price of a cup of coffee, you could join in on fiery debates about science, philosophy, and politics. Each coffeehouse had its own unique clientele. You had writers and poets in one, scientists in another, and merchants and stockbrokers in yet another. In fact, institutions like the London Stock Exchange and Lloyd, S of London insurance market, can trace their origins back to conversations that happened in specific coffeehouses. The free exchange of ideas, fueled by the stimulating effects of caffeine, created an intellectual explosion that laid the groundwork for the age of Enlightenment. Thinkers debated the rights of man, the nature of government, and the very structure of society, all over a steaming cup of coffee. Now let's cross the Atlantic to the American colonies. Here, tea was initially the drink of choice, a symbol of British culture. But that all changed in 1773 with the Boston Tea Party, when angry colonists, protesting taxation without representation, dumped an entire shipment of British tea into Boston Harbor. They needed a new patriotic beverage. Coffee stepped up to the plate. Drinking coffee became a statement of defiance, a symbol of American liberty. Coffeehouses like the Green Dragon Tavern in Boston became the headquarters for revolutionaries. It was in these buzzing, caffeinated dens that figures like Paul Revere, John Adams, and Samuel Adams planned their rebellion. The Boston Tea Party itself was allegedly planned within the walls of a coffeehouse. So, in a very real way, the American Revolution was brewed alongside countless cups of coffee. It was the drink that fueled the late-night meetings and impassioned speeches that gave birth to a new nation. The revolutionary spirit of coffee wasn't limited to America. Back in Europe, Paris was the epicenter of intellectual and political turmoil in the late 18th century. And where did the revolutionaries meet? You guessed it, coffee houses. The Café Procope, one of the oldest and most famous, was a favorite spot for Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Rousseau. Their radical ideas about liberty, equality, and fraternity echoed through its halls. As the French Revolution approached, coffeehouses became the nerve centers of radical activity. It was at the Café de Foy that a young journalist named Camille Desmoulins leaped onto a table and delivered a fiery speech that incited the storming of the Bastille, the event that kick-started the French Revolution. The caffeine-fueled passion and debate that filled Parisian cafés provided the intellectual ammunition for one of the most significant political upheavals in history. Coffee was the social lubricant that allowed revolutionary ideas to spread like wildfire. From the Middle East to Europe and across the ocean to America, coffeehouses consistently created a unique social space. Before coffee, the main public gathering spot for the common man was the tavern. But alcohol dulls the senses. Coffee, on the other hand, sharpens the mind. It encourages alertness, focus, and spirited conversation. This shift from booze-fueled taverns to caffeine-fueled coffeehouses was a game-changer. It created a new public sphere where people could gather, sober and sharp, to discuss ideas that challenged the status quo. These were democratic spaces where a person's rank mattered less than the quality of their argument. The very act of gathering to drink coffee and talk freely was, in itself, a small act of rebellion against the rigid social hierarchies of the time. So, what does this all mean for us today? The next time you walk into your local coffee shop, take a moment to look around. You'll see people talking, working, sharing ideas, and connecting with each other. The coffee house is still doing what it has always done, bringing people together. While we may not be plotting revolutions over our lattes, these spaces are still vital hubs for community, creativity, and conversation. The legacy of the revolutionary coffeehouse lives on in every student studying for an exam, every entrepreneur drafting a business plan, and every pair of friends catching up on life. The simple act of sharing a cup of coffee continues to foster connection and spark new ideas, big and small. From a goat herder's curious discovery to the smoky backrooms where revolutions were born, the history of coffee is far more exciting than you might have imagined. It's a story of how a simple beverage broke down social barriers, fueled intellectual movements, and gave people the energy and the space to imagine a different world. It woke people up, not just from their sleep, but from their complacency. So the next time you brew your morning cup, remember its powerful heritage. You're not just making a drink. You're partaking in a centuries-old tradition of rebellion, innovation, and connection. Coffee didn't just change mornings. It helped change the world. Thanks so much for joining me on this caffeinated journey through history. If you found this story as stimulating as a double espresso, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more surprising stories behind the everyday things in our lives. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.